Hey everybody, like Matt said, I'm Jake Chambers. Blake, my other partner, couldn't be here today due to other commitments. But anyway, we just bought a 75-unit mobile home park up in Indiana, northern Indiana, just outside the Chicago area. We closed about a week and a half ago. We initially started looking at this thing back in April, so it took a while. My wife actually brought this one to our attention, and we looked into it. Initially, it was maybe not really a good deal, but we said they were asking $875 for 80 units. They said we found out it was 75, but we ended up putting an offer in at $675. See if they bid. Right? They said there's no way, absolutely no way that we're sellers below $775. We said, well, there's no way we're buyers above $715, and they accepted. Took a couple weeks of dragging the feet and going back and forth, but we just kind of got busy doing other things, threw more offers out there, and eventually this one stuck. Blake and I, so Blake actually grew up 4 miles from this park. Never, didn't even know it was there. I grew up about an hour away from it, up in north of Chicago. So we're very familiar with the area, very familiar with Chicago politics and everything, pushing people across the border. So we knew this was a killer opportunity. Stayed at his parents' house. And spent 4 days of due diligence going through every lease, all 60 leases, went through the park itself, looked at all the units that we could, talked with the tenants. That ended up being the gold mine right there. And the reason being is because this is what's called a Class B lot rent only park. So we own, the owner owns the ground and the infrastructure, and the tenants own the units, and they pay lot rent, kind of like an RV park, right? And then they are supposed to pay for their utilities. We found out that quite a few were not paying for their utilities because of a lazy management team, or they weren't paying the right amount, to the tune of $50,000 a year. Wow. So just by us properly billing with a system that's already in place called RUBS, and we can talk about that later, but basically by properly billing back the utilities that the tenants use, we would save the park or add $50,000 in revenue each year. So we did all our due diligence. We started going to the lenders, conventional lenders, hedge fund managers, hard money lenders, including PIG, and they all kind of liked the idea. Matt was the only honest one, which I appreciate, and said, hey, I don't know if we can make this one happen just because it's not something we normally do. Maybe on the next one. And awesome. Every other one said, yeah, we're good. That's a slam dunk, home run. Turns out they don't really do mobile home parks, right? So a lot of time and effort, energy spent getting all the personal financial statements, getting all the documents they needed, back and forth. As you know, with lenders and getting the underwriting done, it's a pain in the butt. Come to find out they wouldn't lend. Well, it actually ended up being a blessing in disguise because we said we had to go back to the drawing board. We couldn't get this thing closed. So we said, all right, well, we have to figure something out, creative financing, right? So we said, hey, we can't get a loan. This thing is unfinanceable according to the lenders. This is to the sellers. What can you do? And he said, well, make us an offer. So we made them 3. The first 2 were still at $715, and we said, but they were owner financing options with varying rates and terms and balloons and things like that. The third one, which if you've ever sat in one of these things that Matt's talked about, what is the one thing you always do? Cash offer, right? So again, asking $875. I told Blake, I said, man, what's a ridiculous offer other than asking for it for free? And he said, how about $550? I said, cool, let's do it. We offered $550 cash, and they were really close. They came back at $575, and we said, cool. So this thing was recently appraised at $900,000. So we said, sweet, we're buying at 60% of market value, of appraised value. Got to be able to get a loan now, right? Because we still had 2 months to close because we'd done all this early. So get your due diligence done early, on time, don't wait. Nobody would lend on us. Still couldn't get it done. Except for one hard money lender at 15%, 4 points up front, 12-month balloon, and interest only. It was ridiculous. It wouldn't work. So we went back to the drawing board again, and we said, okay, we actually need to buy this thing cash. We had raised about $350,000 at this point. And this is where the power of the pig kind of comes in. We were running into a roadblock. We were kind of running out of steam. So we reached out to our friend and a partner at a different deal a mobile home park we own out in Alabama, Tim Kelly, and we said, hey, dude, we know you know people. Go tell people that we have this thing, and we'll give you something on the backside, right? So we offered him a little bit of equity, and then what is the acquisition fee? So for us buying this property, we get an X amount of percent, right? It's typically done in commercial properties, and we gave him a chunk of that, and he brought in $300,000 to our deal, and actually about 340, and we ended up raising. We needed, with all of our hard and soft costs, we needed $678,000, and we raised $680,000. Within about 2 or 3 weeks. So the cool thing was when we went to closing, we didn't know this until we actually closed. The sellers, when we looked through the documents, the sellers actually had to bring $88,000 to the table in order to sell this to us. So another thing that Matt talks about, don't ever assume a seller's motivation. Put in the offer based off of what your numbers are and based off of what you want to get it at, and then see what happens, right? And keep pushing. Don't give up. Keep going back to the drawing board. You heard Bob and Jeremy talk about cap rates and NOI. And I'm not going to get into all that stuff. But based off of all this, the money that we found was about $65,000. This property is a Class B property. Will trade in that area between 10 and 11.8 cap. We did a conservative number at a 15 cap. We just added $400 and almost $450,000 in value just by finding those without raising rents at all, and that was just in finding the money that wasn't being brought into the park. So